Alright guys, welcome back to the Guitar Max channel, and it is time for another budget guitar amplifier review. So the keen-eyed among you may have noticed in my last few videos that I've had this Boss Katana amplifier kicking around in the background. I've had this amp for a few months now, and it's about time that I did a review. Now this particular model is the 50-watt combo version, so it's the Boss Katana 50 Mark II, and the prices for these amplifiers are down around $240 now. Obviously the price is great and they've got a lot of really cool features, and these amps have really been hyped up since they were first released. If I'm being totally honest, I really have not spent very much time with these amplifiers, so in this video I want to give just sort of a first impression of the amp and see if they're really as amazing as people say they are. Let's check it out. Okay, so again, this amplifier goes for like 240 bucks. You can find it in a variety of places. I'll have links in the video description below as always. But this is the 50-watt version. There's also a 100-watt combo and a head version of the amplifier. Now, the key thing with these amplifiers is that in addition to the amplifier tones themselves, which are pretty extensive, you have, because this is a Boss product, you have access to basically the entire catalog of Boss effects, but in digital form that you can use on this amplifier. And there's a bunch of built-in effects, and also, like a lot of modern amplifiers, this has a USB port, which will allow you to sort of like import and set up new effects and new patches. Now I want to get into the playing demo so you can hear how the amp sounds like pretty quick here, and then I'll talk a little bit, afterwards I'll talk a little bit more about some of the unique features of this amplifier. But, something that's really important to understand from the beginning here is that unlike a lot of other modern sort of digital guitar amplifiers, this is not really a modeling amplifier. So it's not necessarily trying to reproduce the sounds, like these specific sounds of other amplifiers. This amplifier, although you can get a really wide variety of different tones from the amplifier, it's really just meant to kind of be its own amplifier. It's just kind of doing its own thing when it comes to the way the tones are created. It sort of reminds me of like the ID Core series from Blackstar in that regard, in that, again, with those amplifiers, there's a wide variety of tones you can get from the amp, but they're not necessarily trying to replicate the specific sound of some other brand. You can compare that sort of amplifier philosophy to other like modeling amplifiers, like digital modeling amplifiers, like the Fender GTX 100, like the Fender Mustang series, which I use a lot. But those amplifiers are really set up to be more like specific modeling amplifiers, where it's really trying to reproduce the sound of other amplifiers. Okay, now all the controls on this amplifier are on the top panel, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So over here on the far left, we've got the amp type selection. All the way down, you've got acoustic. Then you've got a standard clean tone, crunch, lead, and the brown sound, made famous, of course, or I should say created by Eddie Van Halen. You also have a little button right up here, I hope you can see that, that says variation on it. And that, you can hit that to give just sort of a different voicing to the amplifier type that you have selected here. Now next to that, we've got pretty standard controls. You've got a gain control, volume control, bass, middle, treble in the EQ section. And then we come to the effects section. We've got a built-in boost, modulation controls, delay, reverb. And when you get into the sort of deeper effects section, which you can do through the USB editing, then these controls here, because these are kind of like two-way controls, each of these knobs has sort of two different halves that you can rotate independently. So these controls will become sort of more powerful as you get into the deeper effects editing on this amplifier. And then down here at the far end, you've got the master, the overall master volume, and then the power control. So it's basically a wattage setting, which is not something you typically have on a solid state amplifier. But if you're familiar with tube amplifiers that do have those controls on there, it can definitely change very heavily the way the amplifier reacts to your playing, the compression levels and so forth, and the amount of headroom on the amplifier. So those controls down there, even though circuit-wise they're not working exactly as they would in a tube amplifier, it's still sort of emulating that difference that you would have by changing that setting on a tube amplifier. Okay, so again, this is the 50-watt combo. It's got a single 12-inch speaker in the cabinet. It's an open back cabinet. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the kind of unique features and specs that the amplifier has after the playing demo, but let's go ahead and just listen to some of the tones that we can get from this amplifier. Now, real quick, guys, as always, if you enjoy watching these videos and checking out cool, affordable gear and you have not already subscribed, please consider subscribing right now. All right, so let's go ahead and plug this in and listen to how it sounds. All right, guys, so that is the Boss Katana 50. Now, as far as the sound of this amplifier, I do really like a lot of the sounds in it. I really like the clean. It's very, very, very beautiful, very, very clean tone. You guys know what I mean? The crunch setting is great. To be honest, the lead tone I felt was a little bit on the sterile side, to be totally honest. I think for lead playing, I prefer the brown setting on here. It has more character to it. But, obviously, I prefer more sort of vintage 80s sounds anyway, so it's kind of predictable that I would like that setting the best. Now, on the back panel here, I'll give you a close-up of the back panel. There's a few cool things on here. First of all, You can see the USB port on the back there. That's for doing all of the editing, for the effects and so forth. Also, right next to that, it's got an auxiliary in. So if you want to play, a backing track or something like that through the amplifier, you can absolutely do that. It also has an input for a foot control, an expression pedal. So that can be either for, for switching, or it can be an expression pedal for like doing volume swells or something like that. And we have a recording out headphone jack. So that's going to be a speaker emulated output, which you can either use for headphones or recording. So you can run this directly into a recording interface, not have to worry about miking it up or anything like that. And just above that, this has one more really cool feature that you don't see on very many amplifiers, and that is the power amp in. So that is basically bypassing the front end of the amplifier. If you want to use this amplifier to amplify like a separate preamp or something like that, you can then plug that into the power amp in and get all the tone from some other unit, and then just use this amplifier to produce the volume, right? Honestly, that used to be more common on amplifiers. People used to talk about slaving different amplifier heads together. So you would use one amplifier to produce the tone and another amplifier to produce the volume. And you can still do that on some amplifiers that have effects loops, because usually the effects return is like a power amp in, but it depends on how the effects loop is set up, and of course not all amps have effects loops. So it's really cool that they included that feature on this amplifier, because again, it's not something that certainly a combo amp is typically going to have, and just a lot of modern amplifiers don't have that feature. Okay, but now I want to hear from you guys on this amplifier. What do you think of these amps? I know, these have been out for a few years now. I'm a little bit late to the party on reviewing one of these. But I mean, I thought it was a great amplifier, and I think for the price, it's really great. Now, there's a lot of amplifiers these days that have all these apps that go with them and so forth. And that's cool, but for me, I'm kind of an old school player, and I kind of, I like more of an old school amplifier where you can just plug in, twiddle a few knobs and crank it up and go, and not have to worry about, syncing it to your phone and, yada yada, that kind of thing. So I really do like this amplifier, and again, for the price, can't really go wrong with it. But another cool thing is, because these have been out for a few years now, you can find these on the used market, and that's how I got this one actually. In fact, I traded a guitar for this amplifier from a buddy of mine, so worked out pretty well. All right, guys, that's it for today. Again, if there are any Boss Katana owners, let us know your ownership experience in the comments section below. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I will have links for everything I was talking about in the video description below. I'll have links for the amplifier, all that good stuff. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.